fresh crack of the Muscle Nation tin. It's a bit annoying because I actually did this podcast yesterday. It's the 2nd of March. We've just had Vegas round. I was like, just before Vegas round, let's do the Brisbane Broncos 2025/2026 preview. I was rattling off. I was on a tangent. I was going on for 45 minutes straight. And then as I was finishing off my podcast, as you know, technical difficulties always seem to happen when you're doing this sort of stuff. And half the recording just disappeared. I must have dropped out my internet and then Riverside lost this connection. So it's saying it was recording, but didn't actually record any of my speaking. It only recorded the screen share. So here we are, one day later, just for you guys, the fans. We're going to be doing the Brisbane Broncos 2025/2026 preview. As you guys know, we've been following along on this journey. We've gone through every single team from bottom to the top, bearing a few in order. So if you want to go check out the other previews or reviews for your chosen team, go into YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you like to see or listen to your podcasts. We're on all major platforms. Go share it. Go tell a mate. I'm loving doing this. But once we finish this last review of the Brisbane Broncos, we're going to get back more into Supercoach, chat with all the regulars when TLT starts coming out. We're going to do a weekly review. And if there's any other segments that you think you want me or my mates to be talking about, please let us know. More than happy to accommodate that as well. But enough on that. Let's get straight into it. So again, the 2025/2026 preview for the mighty, the champions of the season, the Brisbane Broncos. So they're back. Who would have thought? Madge Maguire comes into the helm after Kevin Walters all but said that, yeah, their team's all good to go. Madge Maguire took them to another level. They had 15 wins, 9 losses on 36 competition points, which actually ended up to 4th place, only by a bee's dick. But hey, that's all you need. So another finals run, and we're going to get to that. That finals run was absolutely insane, but let's keep going. 172 point differentiation, only second to Melbourne Storm. Their attack, particularly in the second half of the season, was dynamo. However, defense was 7th. That was a little bit concerning, and we're seeing those consistent trends that we saw from the final series where they were constantly trying to run down teams. They did. They ran down every single team. But more recently, the World Club Challenge, which was very, very concerning. You would hope if you're Madge Maguire, you're going to stamp them out in the off-season. I don't take too much from the World Club Challenge due to the fact that, one, you're traveling overseas. The boys were on Kentucky tour, let's be honest. They're on Kentucky. They're having a good time. Also, it was 2 degrees. F that. Imagine playing at 2 degrees Celsius when I'm a Queenslander, I'm a Gold Coast boy myself. Brisbane's just up the road. It is sweltering heat with high humidity. Now you're going to the complete polar opposite. A bit of slack there. Obviously a bit of slack. But the premiership window is right now. Can they go back to back? And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Defense is their biggest question. So, Madge Maguire, as I mentioned before, took over the helm from Kevin Walters. I thought Kevin Walters was a little bit hard done by, but I said this in yesterday's podcast when I did this, but Steve Kerr, I like to use that analogy for the Golden State Warriors. The previous coach before Steve Kerr came there, he was very good. He had a championship or almost championship caliber team, very strong roster. But then when Steve Kerr came along, he took those Golden State Warriors with Curry, Draymond, Clay, and took them to another level. Madge Maguire, I guess you could arguably say he did the exact same thing. So I think that's a good one-to-one comparison in that regard. But Madge Maguire has been consistently known as a hard-nosed, my way, the highway, drill sergeant. And I think this flamboyant, not ego-driven, I don't want to say that, that's not the right wording, but very strong personalities, flamboyant type team. Madge Maguire with that more steady hand, I think that was what took him over the top. Obviously, you got absolute guns galore all across the park. But Madge Maguire, this is his type of team, and there was a bit of growing pains, obviously. People were commenting, is they working too hard? Were they not buying in completely? Was a boat cruise like a last-ditch effort? People were calling at the door through the media. I thought he was great, honestly. And the culture said it all at the very end of the season when they all were playing for him. I think also worthy to note that there had to be some change. There was a little bit of disappointment. Obviously, they were growing the Brisbane Broncos over the past few years with Kevin Walters at the helm, but I think a little bit of change was necessary to get them over the line. But can they continue it? And I think there were some growing pains because there was players in and out of that team. We're going to go through that very soon, but Ben Hunt injured, Adam Reynolds injured, Ezra Mam, that whole off-season incident. I dug a deep dive in that to yesterday, but I think the Ezra Mam situation played a pretty big, significant impact on the start of the season. Obviously, he was missed like the first 10 or so games. Then he was injured with his hamstring injury, the triple sniper rifle hamstring game. There was another factor. There's a lot of hurdles thrown at Madge Maguire, and he took every single one of those bullets, and he missed every single one of them. So hats off to Madge Maguire. But can he reignite that same flame? Early signs said yes. They started so slow on the World Club Challenge, which I'm going to talk about soon, but they can't rely on that offensive juggernaut that's deep with them, with all that experience they've had. Madge Maguire has a big job to get this into a top 4 defensive team, which is going to help them a lot. Let's just do the 2025 season storyline. So early season, patchy, defensive lapses, chemistry issues with Hunt and Reynolds. As the saying goes, too many cooks in the kitchen. I'm going to talk about that too many cooks in the kitchen analogy very soon. But 2 very ball-dominant players. Ben Hunt obviously came from the Dragons, he was their halfback. Reynolds, obviously, very proven halfback as well. Took a bit of time. I don't think Ben Hunt was always going to be the number 1 5'8" as well. Obviously, Ezra Mam had that position on lock until that incident happened. So that was a bit of a hurdle there. But the birth of Gamut Shibasaki, he's on my screen right now. He deserves a full bloody picture. I'm Jesse Arthurs in the background. I'm glazing so hard. Shibasaki, out of nowhere. And I've actually got a full little slide for Shibasaki coming up. So I don't want to dig too deep there. Let's just keep talking about their mid-season grind. They caught a bit of fire, obviously, during that origin period with Haas and Carrigan dominating. Ezra Mam finally coming back. However, definitely didn't look like he was really ready to go. Sort of looked a bit underdone, obviously, due to the fact he hasn't played many games. Hamstring again. But yeah, they were just running 6. But again, managing the stars through origin was a key part as well. The final series, my God. Walsh's grand final, let alone his prelim against the Panthers, the semi-final, the quarterfinal against the Raiders. My God. All 3 of those games, arguably games of the year. That Raiders game for me was the best of the 3, regardless of the championship. They lost 3 times. They literally lost the game 3 times, and they still won. I remember where I was, all 3 games actually. First one was the Raiders game. I was upstairs with my dad. Raiders are up like 20 points, what it felt like, with 20 minutes to go. Walsh off the field, sin bin. Paddy Carrigan's off the field, sin bin. I'm like, we're cooked. V4, we got a second chance. I had no hope. And then all of a sudden, Walsh comes back in the field, firecracker up his bum, and then bang, bang, bang. Like, felt like 3 or 4 sets in a row they scored a try. I'm like, there's no way. There's no way we're winning this. And then all of a sudden, another try. And then I think we were down by 2 points with 1 set to go. We're 40 meters out. It's like, there's no way the ball is like not in very good position. Walshy has a strike, and then Hosking hits his leg. And I'm like, oh my God, he's injured. He's hurt. Like, we're cooked for next week. And then the ref blows the whistle and says, penalty, taking out the kicker, hitting his leg, penalty right in front. My God. Like, that was just unreal. I was screaming. I can hear my bloody neighbors who felt like 40 meters away they were screaming. I think the whole world was screaming. But that was unreal. And then obviously Golden Point spoke for itself. Ben Hunt with the redemption arc, getting that field goal. That was nice. That was really nice. Obviously, we can think back to the Cowboys Broncos grand final many years ago, back in 2016. That redemption there where Thurston got that field goal. Now Ben Hunt got a bit of redemption there, getting them that week off, which I think was a much needed week off. Then we fast forward into that prelim final against the Penrith Panthers. Panthers found some red hot form in the back end of the season. They looked like they had the game by the horns, and then Walshy decides to like barnstorm through 3 different guys and do a cutout ball to Mariner. Mariner had so much to do, and he scores in the corner. Walshy's missed like 3 kicks throughout the game in terms of goal kicking, and then bang, Adam Reynolds steps up, bung hamstring and all, and slots it from the sideline. I thought that was amazing. That was an awesome moment. And then another moment, obviously, was the grand final. It was the complete 80-minute performance by one player. It was the best purple patch of form I've ever seen. I'm going to talk about that purple patch of form. That's a tongue twister in itself. But Walshy chasing down guys, reading the defense with those 2-on-1s, knocking those balls down. But definitely through that grand final with the give me the ball, I'm going to run through 6 guys about 35 meters out. That was the defining moment for me. That was, my God, I do not know what I've just been seeing. His out-of-body sort of experience. But guys like Shibasaki standing up, and we're going to glaze Shibasaki again very shortly. But the Broncos attacking was the best in the comp within the final series by far, coming back from 3 deficits to get to the grand final win. So the glaze continues. Who stood up and who slid? Reece Walsh. The glaze continues. What more can we say? Bona fide superstar. Game breaker every single week. He had that 8-week of purple patch form. Yesterday, when I did this podcast, I made reference to who's had the best purple patches of form. Definitely Benny Barber. Definitely Tommy Turbo. Jared Hayne 09, that rubbish Parramatta team, and he had that great run of form. Cleary a couple of years ago, and obviously he had that game against the Broncos in the grand final when there was like 20 minutes left. He had Luai and Isaiah Yeo off the field. But Reece Walsh, those last 8 or so weeks, was the best purple patch of form of all time. Guys, let me know in the comments, do you agree or do you disagree? Reece Walsh's last 8 weeks of form was the best we have ever seen in the NRL. Let me know in the comments. I thought Ben Hunt was unreal. Again, I glazed him again in the Raiders game. I thought he was very steady. He's played multitude of different positions. He's played 5'8", halfback, hooker, utility off the bench. Can even play a little bit of middle forward if need be. I thought he was great. And again, he got that field goal, which was so pivotal for that Raiders game when they lost literally 3 bloody times. He was great. He was great. Haas and Patrick Carrigan. One word for not Patrick Carrigan. One word for Payne Haas. GOAT. Enough said. Best front row of all time. Arguably one of the best players of all time. Probably top 5 players of all time. He is that good. And I know, guys, he's not there in 2027, but don't worry. Don't fret. We'll talk about him very shortly. But Patrick Carrigan, he's next man up. He's amazing. He's been through the ringer with Payne Haas. It was so nice to see when they got that grand final win, them embracing and having a little cry and a moment together, because they have gone through everything from the very bottom to a wooden spoon all the way to finals glory together. He's a future captain to me, Patrick Carrigan. Big minutes, played front row alongside Payne Haas, then shifted back to his natural position at lock. Started at front row / lock in Origin for Billy Sater, then got shifted to the bench. Did a very serviceable job there. You put him in any position, Patrick Carrigan will do a job. That's what leadership is all about. And I told you before, the glaze is here. But damn it, Shibasaki, out of nowhere. And Madge Maguire, hats off to you, my friend. You unearthed the next best centre in the game out of nowhere. He was a bit of a rising star and then sort of fell off into the abyss. He was he was an under 19s Queensland representative and then fell off. But what I've got on screen, I'll quickly read it to you. Shibasaki came in on a training trial and went nuclear in 2025 with a round 1 try. Locked him into my Supercoach very early on. Chef's kiss, very happy. Battle medal man on match. Multiple double try games. Match winner against the Sharks. Origin debut in game 3. Huge shoes to fill there. And then scored in the NRL Grand Final, which was their match winner, and got picked for the Kangaroos tour upon that reward. He also had a club breach near the back, sort of 2/3 of the season, but I think you got to have a little bit of controversy when you're trying to climb the top of the mountain, and Shibasaki overcame that and still delivered. So Shibasaki, amazing. arguably one of the best centers in the game now. He's a top 5 center. Him and Katoni Staggs both represented Australia in the final series. Shibasaki is going to be fighting Robert Toya, in my eyes, for that final center spot for Queensland. We'll talk about that maybe later on. Question marks, Selwyn Cobbo, so still quality but inconsistent. Hamstrings are bad. Couldn't manage to lock down a spot. Played a bit of fullback, played center, played wing. Obviously, the versatility is very handy for a team. However, he's gone to the Dolphins. So best of luck to Selwyn Cobbo. Very serviceable, still in the Brisbane region for his family. But I do project him starting outside Herbie Farmworth. He's going to get some very, very good ball there. Maybe Supercoach worthy for some of those guys out there. Another question mark is around Adam Reynolds. Had some great moments, obviously. That sideline conversion, as I mentioned in that prelim final against the Penrith Panthers, was one of the highlights. But as we talked about before, too many cooks in the kitchen. So it is Reece Walsh's team. We know this now. Does Adam Reynolds know that? That's what I want to know. Because the whole game plan needs to be structured around Walsh. And at times, particularly in the first 2/3 of the season, it was Adam Reynolds' ball when he was on the field. Now Reynolds needs to be more a facilitator. It's his final season. Let's get Reno out on a high here. Give him early pill. That's all I'm asking for. Lay that platform for Walshy to do his thing. Will they maybe give Reno every 4 games every month? Here's another break, mate. Take a week off. I don't hate that idea. We got enough depth, which we'll talk about soon in their best 19. But it's not a bad idea giving Reynolds an extra week here and there. Especially if we're starting strong and we don't need to make up wins, I think that's a really good idea. And the middle rotation, a little bit of drop off. Definitely a bit of drop off. Haas and Carrigan obviously are elite, particularly Payne Haas. He is the best front row of all time. Patrick Carrigan, top 10, probably lock of all time. He's very good, very serviceable. Australian Queensland representative in his own right. When those two guys, if they go off the field, who's standing up? Xavier Willison, when he was available, started slow, finished very strong. Obviously had injury concerns with his forearm, but who's going to be next man up when Payne Haas is not there? That is a very good question. Let me know in the comments, guys. So our major 2026 ins and outs and the Haas bombshell, which we'll talk about in the next slide. But for 2026, you got Grant Anderson. Amazing pickup for Melbourne Storm. That was murmured on quite early on in the season, but didn't get confirmed until later. But I think Grant Anderson is going to provide great depth for this team. Maybe we'll be in that top 19. Time will tell, but can definitely be next man up mentality. If there's an injury to the wing or center position, he's definitely in. Potentially Karapani doesn't get into the team if there's a little bit of form drop, but I think as the incumbent, Karapani is a lock there. But Grant Anderson's definitely going to be sniffing at the heels. Tom Duffy, he got picked up by the North Queensland Cowboys. He's Adam Reynolds insurance. Obviously, Kobe Black signed with the Canberra Raiders, which we're going to talk about very shortly. But Tom Duffy started last year out of nowhere. So it's kind of good to get another young fella getting developed, particularly when you got Ben Hunt and Reno there to mentor a guy like Duffy. But a guy like Jonah Pizzette is coming in 2027. So can Tom Duffy find a spot in that team? I'm not sure. That's a very good question. Maybe a depth piece, maybe a development piece. We will see. As I mentioned, not too relevant to 2026, but definitely worthy to note that Jonah Pizzette has signed for 2027. And major outs, we already talked about Selwyn Cobbo. His versatility is going to be sorely missed, but as the Broncos do, they have a fantastic nursery of young fellas coming through. Underrated loss, I think, is going to be Kobe Hetherington. Tongue twister again. Kobe Hetherington has gone to Manly. I think Manly's got a fantastic pickup there. He's the best version of the modern day middle. Fantastic leg speed, finds his front. I'm not trying to diss him at all, but it's like Timu Cameron Murray. Is that too harsh? Timu Cameron Murray? But yeah, very good. He's very good. He's very, very good. Yeah, he's going to miss in the middle rotation. Again, he's the perfect modern day front rower in my eyes. Fletcher Baker, not overly relevant, but again, depth. And Kobe Black, as we just mentioned, Tom Duffy in, Kobe Black out. Kobe Black was meant to be the next man up. So very interesting that the Broncos decided to go with the Jonah Pizzette situation over Kobe Black. Is there something we're not seeing? I'm not sure. Kobe Black also going to the Raiders with Sanders being sort of the New South Wales equivalent to Kobe Black's Queensland equivalent, and along with Ethan Strange at the 5'8" position. Does Ethan Strange move in 2027? That's another conversation to have, but it's a good dilemma to have if you are the Canberra Raiders, that's for sure. But Kobe Black, high upside halfback, will be sorely missed, was the under-19s Queensland halfback as well. And then the biggest one happened very recently, probably within the past month, was the Payne Haas signing with the South Sydney Rabbitohs in 2027 on a 3-year deal. Huge. Arguably the biggest signing of all time. Again, we got guys like Greg Inglis who have left teams from Melbourne Storm. You got guys like Folau leaving the Storm. You've got Burgess signing from overseas. You got all these different guys over the years, but Payne Haas is so monumentally important to the Broncos. It's insane that he left. I thought he would be a Brisbane Bronco for life. There was murmurs. Oh, let's just get straight into it. I've got it right here. So, Payne Haas, again, confirmed 3-year deal with South Sydney Rabbitohs. Brisbane decided to waive the cooling off period in recent times, so that's definitely confirmed. The Haas window is now. What is the role the Brisbane Broncos going to do with Payne Haas? Are they going to run him into the ground? In the World Club Challenge, it was kind of hard to give a definitive answer because Corey Jensen got that HIA within the first 90 seconds, which means Paddy Carrigan and Payne Haas had to play a full game, and obviously they were down. But what will Madge Maguire do with Payne Haas? Will they run him into the ground early on? Will they give him about 60 minutes and then look for that 80-minute performance later on because he's not there next year? Time will tell. Payne Haas is always going to be a guy who's going to work his ass off regardless what team he's going to. So I'm not worried about his effort. And I think the Broncos are going to have to go very, very well in regard to their recruitment. And there's a guy by the name of Mitchie Barnett who's asked for a release to get closer to the southeast or the Gold Coast sort of area. His parents or not, his daughter or something is in Newcastle. So he needs to get into that sort of region. I'm hearing murmurs that Mitch Barnett might sign with the Broncos, Titans, Newcastle Knights as a potential middle replacement. A 1-for-1, if Mitch Barnett can sign, obviously he's not nowhere near the same caliber as Payne Haas, but it's a very handy pickup for the Broncos if they could do that. But Payne Haas with Madge Maguire, he got the license to offload. It's huge. He's going to be such a big loss. We'll see. What are they going to do with their cap space as well? Like Mitch Barnett, maybe a 1-to-1 signing. Just dropped half of that on my shirt. Fantastic. But yeah, any form slump, I would say, would not be due to Payne Haas. Payne Haas is the GOAT. Very good signing. Probably one of the main reasons he left, what I've heard from the media, I'm just regurgitating what other media outlets have said, is that Payne Haas got called by guys like Dave Fafita, who used to play with the Broncos, Latrell Mitchell, were both similar ages, pretty much did the recruitment, come sign with the Rabbitohs who need another middle. I've also heard that Payne Haas's dad's a diehard Rabbitohs fan. I've also heard that before Brisbane committed and locked in with Payne Haas back in whenever he signed in 2016, Payne Haas was looking to sign with the Rabbitohs when Madge Maguire was actually at the helm, and Sam Burgess was meant to attend one of Payne Haas's youth games, didn't attend, got blown off, and Payne Haas pretty much implied, see you later, champ. I'm going to go, got a call from Wayne Bennett, and Wayne Bennett said, come to the Broncos, and then that's when he went to the Broncos. So something to note, but let me know in the comments what you think about the Payne Haas situation. I think it's the biggest loss of all time, honestly. Monumental. But Broncos, if one thing they can do is recruit. They're a mecca. I'm not going to go too much in the World Cup Challenge because take it with a grain of salt. Australian teams have never done really well. Think about the dynamic Penrith Panthers team. They've lost a few of those World Club Challenges. But the bad pattern that we've seen within the Broncos when their final series was they get down and they like to come back. Brisbane did it again in the World Club Challenge. They obviously lost to Hull, who also lost at Vegas. So, what does that say? Pardon me. But you can't be trying to run down 4 tries in 20 minutes every single game. It's not feasible. It's not sustainable. What can they do differently? We'll see. But I thought Reece Walsh played very well. Corey Jensen got injured very early on, but so did, I think, the fullback for Hull as well when the Broncos made that big comeback. Shibasaki, the glaze again, was fantastic. His counterpart in regards to Katoni Staggs, I thought he was awful, shocking ball control. But when the Broncos want to score points and they're running downhill, they are very, very hard to stop. But again, as I mentioned before, Madge Maguire needs to focus on that defense. They need to be a top 4 defense in my eyes this year. Now, for the guys who have been following along in recent episodes, we do the strength of schedule, which is from Fox Sports. They look at teams they verse in 2025 who are top 4, top 8, bottom 4, when the bye rounds are, when Origin is, when the byes are actually scheduled as well, and they synthesize that to provide a tangible number. And the Brisbane Broncos have got the 5th hardest schedule with a brutal start. So in the first month, they got the Panthers, who Nathan Cleary managed to dodge that suspension. The Parramatta Eels, I have no idea what to think about them, guys. The Parramatta Eels could be anywhere between I said 17th at one stage, but they're looking better than that. But Parramatta Eels were anywhere between 16 and 6. Who knows? I don't think they've got the strike power to get in the top 8, but we'll see. Melbourne Storm, they're always going to be there and abouts. If they can sign Zach Lomax with that whole debacle, well, that's another who knows what if situation. Go check that out in my Melbourne Storm review, guys, and Apple Podcast, YouTube, Spotify, if you get your podcast. That's a very interesting listen too. The Melbourne Storm, Zach Lomax, and the Eels are all getting subpoenaed from the Supreme Court. So watch that space. They're going to be good regardless. And obviously the Redcliffe Dolphins, unreal. I think they're going to be a top 16. They're finally going to make the top 8. So close last year, but I think the Dolphins are definitely going to make the top 8. They've got depth galore in all positions. Guys like Nafar, who would be a starting winger on other teams, not going to be playing. Guys like Avarillo, Fuller, depending on how they want to do their back line. Fene Fuiaki, Lemu, they might not even be starting. You got Flegler back, Gilbert back. Yeah, I think the Dolphins are definitely going to be top 16. They've got all 3 buys crammed into an 8-week block. Good, bad. I think it's probably a good thing. They probably need that extra bit of rest, and then they can obviously, depending where they are on the ladder, they might be able to get another week off at the back end of the season. And then they go 8 straight games in that final. So again, if they're locked in a top 4 position with 1 game to go, I highly predict them to rest for sure. And they've got only 1 bye before an Origin game. So take that as you will. So as we can see in my little bar graph, guys, pretty snazzy, isn't it? They've got 12 games versus 2025 top 8 teams, 5 games against 2025 top 4 teams, and 5 games against 2025 bottom 4 teams. Yes, I know, how good is Gamma? Take it as you will. I think every team's better, and guys like the Dragons, for example, they're predicted one of the bottom 4 teams. They looked very good against... Well, actually, they didn't look very good, but they were very competitive against the Bulldogs, who are meant to be a top 4 team. Cowboys, I don't know. They're not looking very good, but take that as you will with Scott Drinkwater getting injured. I think that's a big miss. McKaylee as well with that MCL sprain, but that wasn't looking very good. But again, I think what I'm getting at, guys, anyone on their given day can win. And that's proven in recent years. Transparency throughout the league is what we want, and I think that's what we got, and I think it's going to be even closer than it was last year. Broncos fans, what are your thoughts on their strength of schedule being the 5th hardest? Let me know in the comments. Now, we got their projected 17, but again, it's a 19-man squad because only 4 out of the 6 guys on the bench can only be played, hence why it's the best 17. But their starting 13 is absolutely elite. Now, guys, let me know in the comments if you have any differentiation in regards to who makes the top team. And do you think their strategy changes week to week, obviously with injuries? We saw in the Vegas round that when Scott Drinkwater went off the team, I thought Robert Derby was going to come on as an outside back replacement. They actually put Kai O'Donnell on, and they put Sam McIntyre to the centers. So just because they're an outside back on the bench doesn't mean they're necessarily going to be replacing them. I think that's a stupid move, personally. But as you guys can see in my top 13 on screen, we got something a little bit different. But majority of the squad doesn't change from their grand final win. Of course not. Why would it? So in their back five, Reece Walsh, he's your starting fullback. He's your bona fide superstar. He's your weapon. He gets the picture for a reason. You got to get him the ball, and you got to get him good ball. We don't want to get him overworked for no apparent reason. We want him getting good space. Hopefully the Broncos work down in the off-season. Carapani and Mariner on the wing, very athletic, very dynamic, very good in contact, and very good meter readers for their sizes. Very athletic as well. Shibasaki, Katoni Staggs, both Origin caliber / Australian caliber representatives. They were guns. They were fantastic. They're 630K on Supercoach. Explains everything. I think that left-hand side with Shibasaki, Karapane, and Ezra Mam is absolutely dynamic. And I think Ezra Mam now at the number 6 jersey in the spine with an off-season, without that lingering incident that he had, hamstring injuries behind him, it was a really shitty game he had in the World Club Challenge. That game behind him, I think he's due for a breakout, and I'm praying because he's in my Supercoach draft. At the halfback, steering the ship is Adam Reynolds, of course. We will see. Hopefully, there's a little bit more consistent in regards to the way he's playing and staying healthy. I think that's a bigger thing. A lot of soft tissue injuries in 2025, but we do have a little bit of depth, and that guy at the depth position who would take that spot is Benny Hunt. If there's an injury in the halves, Ben Hunt goes straight in, of course, but I think Ben Hunt starts at the hooker position. Very serviceable. Can play a little bit of middle as well if need be. A bit of small ball, as like they call it. But he'll be starting there for sure. I thought Xavier Wilson might have got a sniff, but going off the World Club Challenge and the grand final, Corey Jensen's definitely retained his spot. We'll see if he gets named round 1. Obviously, he had that concussion in 90 seconds within that first game. But I've got Corey Jensen and the GOAT, Payne Haas, to start in the front row. Those two guys, very serviceable for sure. You got Pierre Cora and Jordan Ricky at the second row position. If Pierre Cora is not ready to go, I got Jack Jogeski ready to fill that role straight away. But otherwise, Jordan Ricky, he's been fantastic. He's sniffing around that New Zealand international team as well. So kudos to him. And Pierre Cora started very, very slowly. Coach Madge Maguire was very hard on Pierre Cora because obviously the monumental upside that it provides, being that athletic beast. But he was very underwhelming in 2025, at least to start the year, finished strong. That left-hand edge with with Ezra, Shibasaki, and Karapani, that could be one of the best in the comp if Pierre Cora can feel his potential. What are your thoughts on Pierre Cora, guys? Let me know in the comments. I know he got invited to camp by Billy Slater as well, so keep an eye on that. At lock, I got Patrick Carrigan. Again, we've been glazing him all podcast. Future captain of the club. Absolute workhorse. Yeah, gun. Absolute gun. So coming off the bench, there's some other guys we could talk about. I think Blake Moser is ready to go. Broncos have been very patient with Blake Moser. He had a bit of an injury scare last year with his shoulder. I think it was a dislocation, if I recall, and then it was like subluxed. Could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. But Blake Moser, very good. And I think he's going to provide a bit more spark than what Ben Hunt can do. Ben Hunt takes the sting out of the game. Blake Moser comes in with that attacking flair. I got Xavier Willison coming off the bench as the first forward, probably replacing Corey Jensen. Xavier Wilson's the next man up. He's got big shoes to fill next year when Payne Haas leaves. Xavier Willison was one of the best on ground during that grand final run as well. So good, so big, so athletic, so strong. Big season expected for Xavier Willison. As mentioned before, Jack Jogeski can provide that second row / a little bit of middle coverage. He will definitely start if Pierre Cora is out. However, he provides a bit of utility off the bench there. Ben Tolte makes my jersey 17. I thought he was a bit hard done by missing out on that grand final team. Again, he's that modern day front rower. He's that Kobe Hetherington-esque type player. I think Ben Tolte has that really quick play the ball, finds his front very well. He's going to be a very regular person there. He looked very good in the World Club Challenge, might add as well. At jersey 18, I got Grant Anderson. He's your utility outside back. Can play center and wing in a pinch if need be. Can play fullback. But you got guys like Katoni Staggs probably feel there before him. But Grant Anderson, very serviceable. Definitely sniffing at the heels on guys like Karapani and Mariner if they underperform. And I'm going to butcher this, guys, but Taha? Do you let me know in the comments how to pronounce that? I absolutely butchered it. Should have gone on YouTube or something beforehand. But what I've been reading online, very promising. Smoky to start a Pierre Cora is not available, but can play middle, can play edge. got that dull, got that aggression in him. And what I saw in the World Cup Challenge from him, very serviceable. And that's the main thing. Provides something different, which is good. Guys who just miss out, Jesse Arthur's very unlucky. Again, now you got Grant Anderson there. You got depth galore. Okay, so if someone goes down, Arthur's and Grant Anderson, they're straight in, which is great. Fantastic depth. Tom Duffy, as we mentioned before, he's came from the Cowboys, can provide a little bit of half depth if Ben Hunt and or Mam and or Reno aren't ready to go. We will see, because you obviously got lots like guys like Tyson Smoothie. Corey Pakes is there in abouts as well, guys. And Billy Walters had that ACL injury. So he probably will be back in the back 2/3 of the season, but he's a big loss. Would he start? He was that good. Like every time he came off the bench, he provided that punch, can play 5'8" if need be as well. He feels that role. He feels that role of that utility. Probably a guy like Tawa. Again, comments, guys, roast me for that. But yeah, I think he would replace a guy like him. The utility value he provides is very, very good. And then another guy in Bentakura, big boy. He's like 6'8". He's monstrous. He's probably a year away. He's probably that next guy up. When Xavier Wilson gets promoted next year to the front row for Payne Haas, you'd probably think Bentakura would take Wilson's impact role off the bench. What are your thoughts on Bentakura, guys? Let me know in the comments. But definitely getting a chance here in Origin for sure. Now, big question points and talking points for 2026. As I mentioned before, is there too many cooks in the kitchen? So this is Reece Walsh's team. We know that. We've seen that. It's proven. But can Hunt, Mam, Reno, and the likes get him the good ball that he needs to take them back to the promised land, get him back to the grand final? We don't want Walsh doing unnecessary, silly organising. We want Walsh being that sweet player on that 3-on-2 or creating a 3-on-2 or that 2-on-1. We want him in that good ball. We don't want him being a Kalen Ponga setting up everything. I think having Ezra Mann back in the team as well consistently is going to help Walsh significantly, having that other runner to support him. What are your thoughts on the spine of the Brisbane Broncos, guys? On paper, it's one of the best, but can they stay healthy? That's the question. Let me know in the comments. I already talked about this with Adam Reynolds, but how do they manage him? They have depth, particularly when Billy Walters comes back. They got, Hunt to fill that role, Tom Duffy, if need be, in the wings. Do they give him an extra game or two? Oh, a little bit tired, a little bit sore. Get the week off. Give him the week off. That's my thoughts. What do you think on Adam Reynolds, guys? How do they manage his workload? I think that's really important. Now, Madge Maguire in defense. So again, as I mentioned at the very start of the podcast, they had the seventh best defense in the comp, but they needed to tighten that. I think they need to be top 4. Again, the comp has been so tight this year. I think they're going to have to tighten up slightly to make it back to the promised land, because they don't want to have that luck and skill, but mostly luck of chasing all these teams from behind. If they get their defense right, it's got to make their life a whole lot easier. And as I mentioned before, in the Payne Haas slide, the Haas usage dilemma. How are they going to use Payne Haas? Are they going to use it for 60, 65 minutes? Are they going to run into the ground with 80 minutes per game? Is it going to be game dependent? I think it's really going to depend on who they're playing. Ideally, he plays 55 to 65 minutes against a team like the Cowboys, where they don't really need him. If they're up, obviously. Caveat there. But guys who are probably going to be there and abouts within the top 4, maybe like the Doggies, maybe like the Storm or the Panthers, you probably play them up to 65 to 80 minutes, circumstance pending. What are you guys' thoughts on that sort of strategy? Let me know in the comments. Now, my 2026 Brisbane Broncos ladder prediction, I've got them second. Definitely could see them coming first. That's definitely their ceiling is first place on the ladder. Probably worst case, 6. But I definitely don't see them dropping out of the top 8. Not a chance. They got too much depth in each position. I think a grand final berth is definitely in the cards. I think that's 100% feasible and up to their top potential. I don't see them missing the top 8. I don't see them missing the top 4. So I think a top 4 is a lock. I project them to finish anywhere between 1 to 3 in the final ladder predictor, but I got them second. Definitely a premiership threat. But caveat. If Reece Walsh goes down, I am concerned. If Payne Haas goes down, I am concerned. Obviously, 2 guns in your team go down. There's never going to be very good. But you've got depth in the halves now. You got Ezra, you got Ben Hunt, you got Tom Duffy, you got depth at hooker as well, with Moser getting promoted in. Got some other guys who I'm probably missing off the top of my head, but there's depth in each position, but you need Reece Walsh. But guys, that's the podcast. That's the Brisbane Broncos 2025/2026 preview. How do we go? Let us know in the comments. Do you like this new multimodal format? I've done this for the Raiders and the Storm. So again, check those out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Again, we're on all major listening platforms. I'm loving you guys commenting as well on social media through TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagram, when we do those reels. I love the conversation. And I'm loving Supercoach. Is Reece Walsh in your team? Is Payne Haas in your team? Is there someone I'm missing? Again, give me that conversation point, guys. Let me know in the comments. But again, like, subscribe, share, tell a mate, tell your dad. Okay. I'm loving doing this. Again, Tackles and Tinnies is popping off in 2026. I love every single one of you who is listening and engaging. Honestly, it means a lot. I sometimes get 5 viewers. Sometimes I get 500 viewers. It doesn't matter. If I'm getting a little bit of joy from one person, it's worth every single minute. So guys, I'm filming this on the 2nd of March. Footy's finally back. I love you all. Up the mighty Broncos and the Gold Coast Titans. Let's go.